In today's episode, we're talking about everybody's favorite topic, and that is editing. Oh, how awesome. Now, stick with me here because I believe when you see what editing is and how it can affect your song, you will get excited about it. You see, if you're like me, you probably spend a lot of time and effort in crafting your songs, and then you might even get the boldness to record them. But when you play them back, you go, my performance wasn't exactly as tight as I thought it was. Or you play it for a friend and they go, hey man, I like the song, but what's that weird noise in the background? And that is where editing comes in, my friends. In a very simplified definition, editing is minimizing or even eliminating sounds that you don't want to hear. And when you talk about editing, there's really three primary areas that we're aiming to adjust. Number one is timing issues. Maybe I played a note too early, or maybe I sang a note too late. Well, we want to adjust those things so that our performance is really tight. Because if our guitar and piano and bass and drums are all hitting at slightly different times, it just starts to sound really unprofessional. The second area that we look to adjust in editing is pitch issues. Maybe I played the wrong note or even sang the wrong note. Well, we want to adjust those so they don't stand out like a sore thumb. And the third area is those weird non-musical sounds that don't have anything to do with your song. They're just in the background of your tracks. We definitely need to get rid of those. So now that we know what editing is and what we're looking to address in the editing phase, let's dive into our video tutorial showing you how to edit your music in GarageBand. One editing move by itself may seem subtle, but if you take the time to edit your entire song, it really will make an impact in the end. We'll start by looking at how to edit your MIDI performances and learn how to use the MIDI editor for creative ideas. We're back here on our first song in GarageBand, and my MIDI performances need a bit of TLC. I even hit a couple wrong notes in there. To start editing our MIDI parts, let's open up the edit window by clicking the scissor tool in the top left of the screen. That brings up our editor window. You can click here to make it bigger or smaller. And here we have the power to adjust our performance in a lot of really cool different ways. The first way to adjust your performance is by simply clicking on a note and dragging it wherever you want it. I can make it earlier, later. I can even take it to a different pitch. And you can see where that's powerful in songwriting because I may have hit this note, but I want to try it at that note. You can do anything in between. But I want to show you one of the most powerful tools that GarageBand offers, and that is the Quantize feature. People, it's time to get excited. This is awesome. So what the Quantize feature does is takes this performance right here that's a bit out of time and snaps it onto my metronome grid. How do I do that? It's really simple. I come over here, click on Region, and then I go under Time Quantize, and I'm going to quantize this into 16th notes. And if you'll notice, it just snapped my entire performance onto the grid. So if I click over here again and bring it off Quantize, you can see it sliding out of place, then sliding back into place. It's taken my whole performance and slid it in time. So let's listen to it with the metronome, solo it, and see how it worked. I don't know if you noticed that, but it snapped every note into perfect timing. Now, if you don't want it to sound exactly perfect, you can pull down the strength of the Quantize feature and make it sound more lifelike or real. In my case, I'm going to keep it up. This is an amazing and powerful tool, and it makes songwriting and recording and editing so much faster because you don't have to do 25 takes until you get it perfect. You can get it how you want it and then quantize it to perfection. So now that I've quantized it, I'm going to make a few more edits. I noticed that it actually didn't snap this note back into place because I hit it so far out of time that it snapped it to the nearest grid marker. So I'm going to go ahead and slide that back in place. And now as I move along my project, I can see, whoops, Here's an extra note that's not supposed to be there. I highlight it, hit Command X, and it's gone. Highlight it, hit Command X, and it's gone. I can take out those notes that I didn't want. Then, here at the end, I was listening and going, you know, I think it needs more to it. I'm going to play it. I would like to double this note in a higher octave. So I'm going to click on it to highlight it, hit Command C, and then Command V, and now I have a duplicate that I can slide anywhere I want to. So I was on a G, I'm going to go up an octave to a G3. Now let's play it. Yeah, it just adds a little something to it. But I also noticed I can't really hear this note. So I'm going to highlight it, come over here to my Notes tab, and take the velocity of this note up. That just means it hits it harder, makes it a bit louder. Now let's listen. Hear that? Now let's talk about how to clean up our live audio takes. If I solo out this rhythm guitar and let you take a listen, you'll hear a lot of extra noise on the front end. That is not the kind of noise we want to hear in our recording. If I solo out this lead vocal and let you listen to the end of it, there's a big click here at the end. Now it may seem like a small thing to have one click here, a little movement and wrestling there, but if you add several clicks up throughout the course of a song and lots of extra noise in the background throughout the course of a song, it can really muddy up your track and just take away from the overall song. So we want to go in and clean these up. Here's how we do it. Simply put your cursor on the end of one of your audio tracks, either the beginning or the end, and it pulls up what we call the editor tool. If I go up, I have what's called the loop tool, but we are going to stick with the editor tool. I click it and I can actually drag and cut off some of that audio that I don't want. So I'm going to go to the front of this track and simply click and drag up and drag off some of that audio that I don't want on all of these. Then I'm going to go to the tail end and clean up my clicks. Now let's have a listen. This is my first song. All right, a lot better. Let's listen to the end. So there's no clicks and pops here at the end. I might drag this guitar out just a bit. But we've cleaned up all this excess noise on the front end and a bunch of clicks on the tail end. So we've looked at how to clean up noise on the front end or tail end of your audio recordings, but what if the excess noise is happening right in the middle of one of your takes? We'll use this project as an example to show you how to clean up audio in the middle of one of your recordings. In the bridge, we were doing some collaborating, and we even were doing some chatting during the recordings, and you'll hear the phrase, "I'm not doing that." For your light is come. Did you hear that? So here's what we need to do. Put your cursor to the right place in the timeline and solo out the track that you think has the problem area. And give it a listen. Yep, that's the one. Now, put the playhead at the right spot in the timeline and then hit Command T to break or split our performance at the playhead. Once you've shaved off the problem spot, you should be good to go. Rise and shine, for your light is come. Pretty nifty, right? Now, if you truly have a noise that's right in the middle of your singing, you're probably not going to be able to get rid of that. You're just going to have to re-record. Lastly, let's talk about how to adjust the timing of a live audio performance like this guitar. Now, the timing of this guitar is actually pretty tight, but if I turn on the metronome, you can hear a few spots where it's a little out of whack. So here's what we're gonna do. Make sure you have the appropriate track selected and then hit the Edit tool again. Within the edit window, we can click on this feature here, which is called Flex Time. When we engage the Flex Time feature, it takes a reading of our entire performance and maps it all out in relation to the metronome grid. From here, all we have to do is grab the highlighted points and slide them to line up with the metronome grid markers. Now, it's up to you how perfect or imperfect you want your performance to be. I'm simply showing you what the tool is and how to use it. Now that I've lined up a couple measures of my guitar performance, let's take a listen and see what we've done. Right on the money. And a tight performance, my friends, is a professional sounding performance. So we've talked about how to adjust the timing of MIDI instruments and live audio takes. We've also talked about how to correct the pitch of some MIDI takes that are out of whack. And we've even covered how to get rid of some of those unwanted noises. So that leaves us with one thing left on the list, and that's correcting pitch on our vocals. And everybody loves them some auto-tune. Well, I don't mean to disappoint you today, but we don't have time for that in this episode. So you better catch next week's episode, which is all about that auto-tune. To keep up with weekly content from here at the Songwriting Studio, simply go to thesongwritingstudio.com and enter your email address. This is Dean from the Songwriting Studio, signing out here in episode number 4 and encouraging you again to make some music that matters. I'll catch you next week.